How to create a identity shift on a soul-based level. I'm going to have a conversation with you about how one of my clients completely shifted her identity from someone who used to have extremely negative self-talk, who used to beat herself up every single time she would binge, overeat, use food for comfort, ate more sweets than she would normally like. How she went from self-beat-up judgment, feeling like a failure, to actually speaking to herself like the badass that she knows that she is. Diana says, you helped me so much. I'm so glad. Hi, Diana. Welcome. So this client had a really big breakthrough, and I want to walk you through this because, man, oh man, creating an identity shift is going to radically transform the way you see yourself, how you speak to yourself, how you eat, how you take care of yourself. It is going to create a big radical transformation. So this client said to the group the other day, she said, binge eating and overeating isn't actually the biggest struggle for me. It wasn't actually the biggest struggle for me. The most painful thing was the way that I spoke to myself after I ate. Can you relate to that? The negative self-talk, the judgment, the criticism, the negativity, the inner critic, the voice that is so loud, so mean. This client said that she's always struggled with negative self-talk. You're a failure. Why can't you control yourself? You're X amount of years old and you still can't eat normally. What the heck is wrong with you? She would always have this negative self-talk after she would eat. And not just about eating, just in general, this negative self-talk. And she said, I kind of started getting behind the fact that I believe that I could heal my relationship with food. I feel like I can get behind that. But I don't know if I can change the way that I'm speaking to myself because I have had negative self-talk the majority of my life. Although she struggled with her relationship with food for quite some time growing up, she said, I kind of feel like I can shift that because she was starting to have less binges. She's like, I don't binge anymore. She was experiencing a transformation, but when it came to her negative self-talk, she's like, I don't know if I can get behind that. I think I'm just going to always kind of beat myself up and speak down to myself. I can get behind having a good relationship with food, but the negative self-talk, I don't know if I can actually change that. And maybe you've experienced this yourself where maybe there's one part, maybe you feel like, okay, I feel like I can probably feel better with my relationship with food, but my body image, I think I'm always going to struggle with the way that I look. I'm always going to struggle with, feeling like how I look isn't good enough. Maybe you can relate. And so this client came on a call and she came on sharing this breakthrough. And she even shared in our group and she said, the other week I had more sweets than I would like to admit, but I didn't beat myself up. There was no, you shouldn't have eaten that much. There was no judgment. There was no, you're a failure. She said, sure, I don't feel the best. Sure, I didn't need as many sweets. But she said to herself, I'm human and I trust that my body is going to regulate itself. And she kind of paused for a moment and she was like, that is so weird for me to have said that to myself because in the past, I would have always beaten myself up. I would have always spoke negatively to myself. And so she came on a coaching call and she said, I wonder what I did differently. That this is really foreign to me. I normally don't speak positively to myself. I normally don't just brush it off. Normally I'm beating myself up. Normally I'm judging myself. And I just kind of said I don't love the fact that I had so many sweets and I don't feel the best, but I trust that my body will just do its thing and regulate itself. And she said, Lorna, what did I do differently? Like, I'm trying to think, like, what did I do to be able to experience this? Because this feels really good. And I said to her, there is not one thing that you did to have this breakthrough. It wasn't one tool. It wasn't one single thing that you did. It's an accumulation of every single thing that you have been doing up until this point. So a lot of the times people, when you've experienced a breakthrough, maybe you haven't given to an urge, maybe you're feeling way better in your own skin, maybe you're just really consistent with your food and you haven't been overeating and you're like, what did I do differently? And it's really easy to want to be like, what's the one thing that I did? What's the one thing that I did? Because you want to know what that one thing is so that you can do it again and you can replicate it to experience the same results. Of course, right? Like, why would you not want to replicate it? Of course. You want to extract the wisdom to be like, okay, what did I do differently? And I want to do that again because I feel really good. But I said to her, it's not one thing that you did. It is the fact that you have showed up for yourself consistently over time. You have utilized the tools over time. You've changed how you're speaking to yourself over time. You've reframed your thoughts multiple times over and over and over again. This is how you rewire your brain through repetition. And this client had the biggest breakthrough. She said, I'm finally recognizing that the biggest shift was not in something that I actually did. It was more so in who I was becoming. This client said, I finally recognized it wasn't anything that I did. It wasn't like this magical thing and like this magical tool. She said the biggest shift was because I focused on who I was becoming. Now, what does this actually mean? She started showing up as the version of herself that actually respected her body. She actually started showing up and listening to her body, not her urges. She started listening when her body said rest, she would slow down. When she was feeling overwhelmed, she'd take a break. When she was recognizing like, hey, I'm actually full. Okay, I don't need any more food. She was actually respecting the body that she was in. And so many people want to know, Lorna, what's the magical tool? Like, tell me the tool, tell me the thing. There's not one magical tool. Every single time you change how you're thinking, every single time you reframe your thoughts, every single day you wake up and you respect the body that you're in, you actually listen to your intuition, not your urges. You are shifting your identity on a soul-based level. It's not what do I do, it's who am I becoming, and you focus on showing up as the version of yourself that you want to step into, the version of yourself that you want to claim, not holding on to an old identity that's no longer serving you. So this client, like I said, her identity was I am someone who has negative self-talk. This client said, I have negative self-talk. I always beat myself up. I can't be compassionate. I just have all this negative thoughts. She was clinging on to that identity. But when you hold on to an identity that no longer serves you, it prevents you from actually stepping into the badass woman that you know you are. And so she needed to shift her identity. She needed to say, I don't want to be known as this person who has negative self-talk anymore. I want to focus on the woman that I'm becoming. Who is she? Who is the person that you want to be? What action would she take? And can you start taking action in alignment with that version of yourself? Not take action in alignment with the version of yourself that you have outgrown, or the version of yourself that you don't want to even be holding on to. It's difficult shifting identities. When you said, but this is who I am, like I've always been a binge eater. Yeah, but I've always overeaten. Yeah, but I've always cared about the way that I look. Yeah, but I've always beaten myself up after eating certain foods. You can continue telling yourself that, and then your behaviors are going to reflect that identity. Or you can focus on the person that you want to be and the actions that she would take. And as a result, you're going to become her. And so this was a massive breakthrough moment for this client. She said, Lorna, what did I do differently? I said, you didn't do anything differently. Everything that you've been doing, how you've been speaking to yourself, the thoughts that you've been changing, it is all adding up behind the scenes. And you are focusing on being the person that you need to be. You have been showing up every single day like the person who's going to conquer. You've been showing up every single day like the version of yourself that you actually want to be, which is why you're changing how you're speaking to yourself. There wasn't one magical thing that you did. It was an accumulation of many things that you did, but more importantly, wasn't what did I do? It was who she was actually being. How she was showing up every single day in alignment with the version of herself that she actually wanted to be known for. This is how you actually shift your identity on a soul-based level and experience a radical transformation that will last you a lifetime. If you just focus on behavior change, okay, Lorna, what do I have to do? I can tell you what to do. Okay, today, you're going to use this tool to not give in to your next urge. That is great. Sure, you might not binge tonight, but you're still seeing yourself as I'm this binge eater. I have negative self-talk. I can't change. I'm obsessed with the way that I look. You're still holding on to that identity. The only way you can actually shift your identity is by actually acting like her. Focusing on who you're becoming. That version of yourself who does speak positively to yourself. The version of yourself who respects the body that you're in. If you want to be that person that is no longer stressed and overwhelmed, the next time you're stressed, you got to take a beat. If you want to be that person who's patient and calm with your children, when you so badly want to snap, you got to take a minute and say, okay, deep breath. So it's not, yes, you have to take action. Yeah, you have to do things differently. But who is that version that you want to step into? Focus on how she acts, how she thinks, how she behaves. If you start acting like her, you actually become her. Versus, Lorna, what do I do? Tell me the one magical thing that I can do. Tell me the one magical solution. There's not a magical solution. If there was one magical solution, everybody would be binge-free. Everybody would be positive. Everybody would be healthy. Everyone would be feeling like an unstoppable badass in their own skin. But it's not the one thing. You actually have to show up consistently over time as the version of yourself that you want to step into. The version of yourself that you want to claim. And be willing to let go of the old identity that's not serving you. This client could have clinged on to the identity. I'm negative, but I just always speak negatively to myself. She could have stayed there, but she wouldn't have had the breakthrough if she stayed there. She said, I focused on who I was becoming. I started actually showing up as the version of myself who respects the body that she's in, who loves the body that she's in. When I'm tired, I rest. When I'm overwhelmed, I take a break. When I'm hungry, I eat. I listen to my body, not my urges. Because the version of herself that she wanted to step into would do that. So she thought, what's the identity that I want to claim? What actions would she take? And she started taking action in alignment with that, and then she became her. This is the work that I do with my clients. It's not, here's a tip, here's a tool. Like, that's great. But if you actually want to experience a radical transformation that will last you a lifetime, you actually have to do this work to shift your identity, to see yourself differently. It is so easy to hold on to an old identity. Like I used to be a personal trainer. I used to be a health coach. And even when I transitioned into being a binge eating coach, that was an identity shift that I needed to let go of. Oh, Lorna's the healthy and the fit one. And then I started focusing on like, well, I don't want to just like be so meticulous about what I'm eating. Like, I want to be successful. I want to be the strong badass. I want to have a great relationship with my husband. I want to see myself differently. And I needed to let go of that old identity and step into this powerful badass, this successful, powerful badass versus someone who just looked a certain way. It's not easy. Oh, but I always eat in the evening. Okay, but that's the identity that you're holding on to. I used to even think like, oh, I'm just so snappy and so irritable. I'm not patient. But I didn't want to be that person. So I had to let that identity go and say, if I want to be patient and calm, how would she act? How would she respond? You have to start acting in alignment with that version of yourself to become her. Is it easy? No. Is it scary? Yeah. But what's scarier is holding on to an identity that doesn't feel like you. Let that land. Shifting your identity is challenging and it's scary, but what's scarier is holding on to an identity that no longer even is you. This is why when you're binging or you're overeating, it feels like you're living a double life because you know that that's not actually who you are. That's scarier than actually going for it and shifting. In terms of how long it took me to stop binging completely, I get asked this question a lot. And I'm going to be so radically honest, I don't know. Because I was never focused on how long is it going to take me? I better do this in 3 months. I better do this in 6 months. I didn't have timelines. And I think that's a huge reason why I conquered. I didn't have a timeline. I know for sure it took me all of 2019 and the majority of 2020, but I don't know like it took me X amount of days or X amount of months. I don't know because I didn't focus on that. I didn't focus on time. I showed up every single day as the version of myself who would conquer, and I did. But I didn't just like, hopefully one day I'm going to conquer. No, I put in the work. I learned the tools. I got support. Like, it's like I did the work. And this is why the clients that come to me, it's like, they're in it. They work with me for 6 or 12 months. They're learning the tools. They're coming on the coaching calls. They're plugged into our badass community, right? So it's I'm going to show up every single day, and it's inevitable that you're going to become less impulsive. It's inevitable that you're going to conquer. Like, it's so inevitable. It's so inevitable. If you have this radical self-belief, like, I can freaking do this, you will do it. No, I have not binged in well over 5 years. Well over 5 years. So I wanted to share this breakthrough that one of my clients had. This is the deep work that I do with my clients. Yes, there are specific brain-based tools that I'm going to teach you. Yes, there are certain, you have to stop giving into your urges. You have to change your thoughts. Yes, 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 yes. But more than that, it's like you have to be willing to let go of identities that aren't serving you anymore and step into the version of yourself that you actually want to be. That's how you collapse the time. It's like, okay, well, how do I want to show up? How do I want to behave? How do I want to feel? You got to experience that right now. Stop clinging on to an old identity that does not serve you. Oh, I'm this overeater. Yeah, but I always speak negatively to myself. But I'm always stressed. Even when it comes to like stress and overwhelm, stop saying to yourself, I'm always stressed. Yeah, I'm always overwhelmed. You're creating your reality. If you don't want to be that anymore, I'm in the process of being someone who's calm and relaxed. I used to be very logical, logic, and I wanted to be this intuitive person. And so I started saying, like, I'm in the process of being someone who is intuitive, someone who can trust her body to give her the answers instead of looking outside of me. I am someone who can tune inwards and make decisions myself versus turning to my husband to get a second opinion. I can trust myself to make decisions. Your feelings are very strong. I've been binging for a month now. Help me. If you guys are looking for a place to stop your binge eating, get inside of the Root and Rewire membership. This is where you actually learn my entire Root and Rewire process for how to actually rewire your brain out of the restrict binge cycle so you no longer even feel a single urge to binge. If you want to have way less food thoughts, if you want to get back to eating like a normal person again, you're so in tune with your body, you know exactly how much to eat without tracking your food. You want to feel like an unstoppable badass in your own skin. You want to be able to just eat freely, like this client, not have negative self-talk, like just freaking eat. Actually respect the body that you're in. The membership is the best place to join if you're getting started. Actually, this client that I shared the breakthrough with, she started inside of the Root and Rewire membership. Every single one of my clients who have conquered binge eating has 99% of my clients who conquered binge eating started inside of the Root and Rewire membership. All of the foundational tools are there. So I would definitely jump in. All right, you guys, thank you so much for being here. Your identity is everything. I can share all the tips, tools, strategies, that's great, but we need to have these identity-based conversations. This is the real work that I do with my clients, and it's what creates a lasting, long transformation, not just for a month or 2 months. I'm talking years and years and years and years. Once you shift your identity, you can't go back, and that's the greatest thing. It's like you've let go of old identities that you've outgrown. You're not that person anymore. You're becoming the version of yourself that you're actually meant to be, the unstoppable badass within you. So, thank you for being here. Have a beautiful rest of your day, you guys, and we'll see you soon. Okay, bye, guys.